This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
So the first thing I came up with is our vision statement, and that's to build champions on and off the field and help them become productive citizens while relentlessly pursuing championships. And really that was our college coach. He said just using football as a vehicle to help, build better future husbands and fathers and workers, just kind of took that idea and, hey, we're going to build champions on and off the field, and help them because when they leave Lincoln, I want them to be productive citizens and be a positive impact. But at the same time, we're going to coach good football.
Welcome to the Turnaround Series presented by CoachTube, the go-to platform for coaches who want to learn from the best. If you're working to turn a program around, you know that success isn't just about effort. It's about having the right resources, a proven plan, and access to insights that make a difference. Learning from those who have done it before, using detailed and tested strategies, can be the key to transforming your team. That's exactly what we're bringing you in this series, hosted by Michael Chavez. We'll break down key decisions, leadership strategies, and cultural shifts that have helped coaches rebuild and redefine their programs. And with CoachTube, you don't just hear about these turnarounds, you gain access to the same on-demand training and expertise that have fueled real coaching success. Let's get to it. This is the Turnaround Series, powered by CoachTube.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Today, we are excited to have Coach Masaki Matsumoto on the Turnaround Podcast. My name is Michael Chavez, head coach at Troy High School in Southern California, and I am graced with the privilege of hosting the series through the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. Coach Matsumoto was at the forefront of an amazing turnaround at Bernstein High School in Hollywood, California. In 2012, Coach was hired to rebuild the struggling program. As such, he inherited a 2-8 team. 4-36 overall in the 4 seasons prior to his tenure, and immediately turned the program around in year 1 as he went on to win 8 games and finish the season 8-3. The next year, he built on that success and led the team to a 9-1 regular season record on his way to finishing 11-2, a loss in the semifinals. And the following year, he went 10-3, securing the school's 3rd league championship, and proceeded to lose a close game in the semifinals yet again. Since then, Coach was asked to take his talents to Lincoln High School in Tacoma, Washington. He inherited a successful program, 11-1 overall, and has since built upon that success while implementing a sustainable plan for success. Lincoln's record in his tenure is 84-23, 8 out of 10 league championships, 8 playoff appearances, and 1 semifinal appearance. Coach Matsumoto, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Coach. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. So, Coach, let's start with Bernstein. Walk us through the process of taking over that program and how you managed to instill a winning mindset.
Yeah, so I was an assistant coach under the previous coach for 4 years, and it was tough, And after the fourth season, so I was a teacher on campus. I was the head track coach, and I was known at that school, obviously. And then the principal approached me one day, said, "Hey, we're gonna go in a different direction with the football program. You are already on staff. We love what you're doing with the track program. Would you want to take it over?" So I asked her, if I could have a weekend to think about it, because I knew it was my first head coaching job. I was only 29 and we were not good. And so I wanted to think about it over the weekend and talk to some people and talk to one of my mentors. I actually on an email, Sean Doyle at Cathedral Catholic. He's the first coach that hired me out of grad school. And, I just asked him, like, this is going to be a tough job. It's inner city and, we haven't been good. I'm young. And he just said to me, hey, I've been in the suburbs for a long time, but I don't have any experience with inner city kids. But I do know whether, it's in the suburbs or in a city, kids just want to be loved. And I know you will love on them, and that kind of resonated with me. And I said to myself, yeah, I do love these kids and I will work hard. So on Monday, I accepted the job, and that's how I took over in 2012.
Awesome.
Yeah. So right away, I just wanted to implement a off seasons program, accountability and just discipline and structure. I always say whether kids know it or not, they want structure and they want discipline, and so I wanted to provide that for them. And I also played for a college coach and a high school coach that also emphasized, relationships and also having fun too, playing games and stuff like that at the end of practice and doing activities where, you get to know each other and get closer to each other more than just teammates or players. And so I just kind of, took everything I learned and just kind of poured it in and into that program. And I was, young and I had the energy and the time. And so I just kind of gave everything to it and we were able to kind of turn it around.
Oh, that's awesome, Coach. Let's tap into a little bit of your heart for the inner city community, again, which is so interesting as we talked about in our conversation, that you did not have experience with the inner city community leading up to Bernstein, and see yourself not only, taking over Bernstein and turning it around, but then going to Lincoln, which is in the inner city. And, it's not often you meet people that are like, yeah, I want to go to the inner city school. So Please share with us your history and what kind of led you to develop that kind of passion for it.
Yeah, as we talked about, in our conversation, I grew up in the suburbs. I went to a Christian high school, a Christian college. So, I wasn't really aware of the inner city setting. And really, I went to Bernstein because that was the only job really I could find, because I wanted to still be in Southern California after finishing grad school in San Diego, but there was really nothing in San Diego. And so I applied to LA, and that was, they had a special education position open, and it was a brand new school that was opening. So they needed teachers and coaches. And so, I got lucky and I got hired there. So right away, I just knew it was different. It was not the environment that I grew up in, kids ditching classes, kids, not doing work, kids failing classes, kids talking about not graduating, and I was really foreign to that. And because I didn't know any better, I just really just started attacking those things right away. I would get on kids when they were ditching. I would ask them, like, what do you mean you're failing a class? All you got to do is basically, act like you're working and sit and, go to class and, you can at least get a C, And so, yeah, I just really started just attacking those things because I'm like, I don't get this. I don't get why kids, are failing so much, And then I just started coming up with systems and things that I could do and long talks and just, motivational things. And I just started, really enjoying the things that I was seeing, from helping these kids. One thing you and I didn't talk about is I grew up with a single mom. Though I didn't grow up in an inner city, I related to a lot of these kids, coming from single moms and single parent homes. And so my mind was like, well, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I'm not anyone special, And so, yeah, it's just through those things, I began to really love how I was being able to impact a lot of kids and, do all kids need, good mentors and stuff like that? Yes. But I feel like, in the inner city, maybe they have less of them. And so I felt like, okay, I could be that for them. And if God's going to use me in that way, then I'm more than happy to.
Yeah. Coach, I think it's really critical for our listeners, especially those young coaches that have a lot of passion and a lot of energy. And they're like, oh, I'm going to take over a program. I'm going to go after it. And, I have great relationships with the kids and I love them. And so we're going to do this. And I think that's great. But I think something that you mentioned was very critical. Number one, you had a plan for the off-season program. You had, as you mentioned, systems to increase accountability and grade checks. Speak to the off-season program that you implemented and the systems that you utilized to increase accountability across the board.
Yeah, we started what's called boot camp in the off season, where we check grades, and if they had 2 Ds or F, they had to do a certain amount of like tutoring during the week, and they would turn in a slip at the end of the week to me, and we're still doing it at Lincoln in the off season. And if they don't do it, then they have to, do extra conditioning, at practice, and we hold them accountable. Any disrespect or any behavior issues or anything like that, and we held them accountable at practice. And we call it team makeup. It's you're making up your mistakes to your team, and
Yes.
so yeah, the kids just, if they hear team makeup, they just know, and so we just started doing those things and never wavered. You and I talked about, you have to have both love and accountability. You can't have just one or the other, and I always knew that, like, because if you just have accountability, kids will be burnt out and they'll become resentful. If you just have love, then you guys will all be happy, but no one will be doing the right thing. And so yeah, I think you just have to have both of those. And my high school coach always says accountability is love, and so we did both of those things, spent a lot of time with them, took them out to eat, was just poured into them. But also, again, when they then make good choices, then we held them accountable.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. Let's talk about two specific things that you did when taking over Bernstein. And I know that Charlie Tegamp mentioned it in his previous episode, is you created a schedule that allowed you to be competitive and to build upon the success that you would have in the future. That was one thing you did. And second, what did you do schematically to increase your guys' chances of success on the field?
Yeah, so first year I took over, it was we were fortunate. All the non-league schedules were up, the 2-year contracts were up, and so it was wide open. And I just said, hey, our kids don't have a lot of confidence right now, going 4-36. So let me try to schedule some winnable games, or at least games that we have a chance to win, and first 4 games, I was able to schedule some games that were winnable, and we went 3-1. We lost one of them, we went into league 3-1, and kids were confident. And, at that point, we didn't really care about, who did we beat? We were 3-1, and, 3 wins was the most, wins ever, at that school.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I think it was just a good momentum, builder and a confidence booster. Schematically, you always hear it, coach, you don't have to have amazing schemes. It just has to be like fundamentally sound, and you have to, coach good technique, and it has to be sound. And offensively, we were in 21 personnel, and we ran, ISO, counter tray, and power. And yeah, we just, we utilized our big linemen, and we had a couple great running backs, and we just handed the ball off to them. On defense, just the defense I got from Cathedral Catholic, we were just basically a 4-3, cover 2, cover 3, and just really, coach the heck out of it. And yeah, and so just by doing simple things and fundamentally sound stuff, we were able to have success.
That's awesome. So, Coach, let's go into, year 1, you have success. Year 2, you take another step and have more success. 3, your contracts must have been up. Did you guys schedule up? Did you guys schedule the same teams? What was the step for year 3 in the program?
Yeah, so year 3, we had lost a close game in the semifinals the second year to Poly High School up in the Valley. And we had, a good amount of guys returning, and we had a great off season. And so I thought we could be good again. So yeah, we scheduled up. I don't think we didn't schedule any like powerhouses, we didn't go play Mater Dei or nothing like that. But yeah, we scheduled some teams that were comparable to us, and we actually lost to North Hollywood in our non-league game. We came out of non-league, I think 3-1 again, but against better teams.
Yeah, and Coach, let's back up real quick to Bernstein in and of itself. So it was a brand new high school, 7 years prior to you leaving, but 4 years prior to you taking over the program. Talk about what it was like being a part of a school that was just starting its football program. You don't have the ability to tap into history. What was your message in regards to how you were going to bring success to the kids into that community?
Yeah, well, I mean, first 4 years, I didn't really have a message. I was an assistant, and like I told you in our conversations, like a lot of the things I try to, say, hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Because I mean, we didn't even script practice, or we didn't script anything. We didn't script 7-on-7, nothing, and these were things I would just suggest, and he didn't want to do it. And yeah, so a lot of the things I wanted to do or suggested, he didn't listen. But it's okay, it's his program. And I just made a commitment. I said, hey, you know what? I'm done suggesting things. I'm just gonna serve him and do whatever he wants me to do, and do it all for the kids, And yeah, and so that's what I did the last 3 years I was with him. And, it wasn't fun. It wasn't, great all the time. I just really loved the kids and really enjoyed them, and, they had never played football before. That's a soccer community, and there's no Pop Warner leagues in Hollywood. And I just really enjoyed teaching kids who never played football, at least I was trying to teach good football, just as an assistant. So that's really what I was trying to do.
Yeah. So it obviously takes support from administration to, build a program. And I know you mentioned you had it. Walk us through the story of when you started to see that support materialize and what that meant to you as a coach.
Yeah. So the principal that, asked me to come on, again, you and I didn't talk about this, but I was really eager. And so sometimes I think she was kind of taken back and stop bothering me kind of thing, because that was her first time, I think, being a principal at a high school. And she had just seen bunch of, failing seasons, and as a head coach, if you want to be successful, you have to be pretty demanding, and you got to ask for things, and, and so right away when she hired me, I would ask for all these things. And I think at one point, she sort of got annoyed or mad, and she kind of let me know that in an email. And then so I replied to her. I said, I'm sorry, I'll work on it or something, but I apologized. And even though I knew I was right, I should be asking for these things, she's my principal. So I just said, I'm sorry, I'll work on it or whatever. Then that's when she emailed me back, because I think maybe she felt bad. And she said, hey, I was watching practice from my window, and it is so structured, organized. It's nothing like it was in the past, and I really appreciate what you're doing so far. And that's when I was like, okay. And then she would come to all the games now, and and she was just so happy because, as you know, Coach, a football program is the face of the program, or it's the face of the school, right? And it could be in a good way or in a bad way. And I think she was really happy about what the football program was doing for the school and just bringing energy. And I was holding the kids accountable, so it wasn't a bunch of football players running wild, as some schools do. And so she was very supportive, and I was very lucky to have that.
Yeah, I think that is something we need to remember as we are taking over a program. And we are and need to be demanding. If we have a vision, if we have a standard of how we're going to do things, it is okay for us to be demanding. We just have to do it with tact, I think.
You have to have a support of the principal. You could be a great coach with great ideas, but if you don't have a supportive principal, you just can't make your vision come to life.
Yeah.
If I have any message for any aspiring head coaches, when they interview for their jobs, you should be interviewing them as well,
Yes.
in terms of, hey, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to get this? How can you support me in this? Because if you don't have that, it's just, your hands are tied.
Yeah, absolutely.
What if you could get inside the heads of elite coaches and championship leaders, learning their strategies, techniques, and philosophies anytime, anywhere? That's exactly what CoachTube delivers. This isn't just another video platform. CoachTube is a technology platform built for coaches by coaches, giving you on-demand access to detailed, proven instruction straight from the best in the game. The courses you'll find here aren't created by a production company. They come directly from the coaches, state associations, and charities like Lawrence First and Goal, sharing their expertise to help others grow. And when you purchase a course, you're not just improving yourself, you're supporting those coaches and organizations who are giving back to the game. If you're a coach with knowledge to share, CoachTube makes it easy to create and distribute your own training content. Teach what you know, help others coach, and build your brand. Visit CoachTube.com to explore courses or reach out to me, Keith at CoachTube, if you're ready to share your expertise.
Let's talk about a subject near and dear to my heart, Coach, which is assistant coaches. You have been blessed, and we'll get to how much of a blessing they've been in your life, even at Lincoln. But what was it like, kind of, I guess, assembling your staff at Bernstein? What did you look for? How did you bring those guys together? And how did you guys have success with your staff?
Yeah, so, the main way I did was just post on, the city section and the CIF website. And then, one or two guys from the old staff, and then our current OC at Lincoln, he just approached me one day after school. Like I was kind of just like walking around, checking out spring sports, like softball and stuff. And I was just kind of watching and hanging out. And like a 21-year-old man approached me and said, "Hey, is this Coach Matt?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Hey, my name is Charles. I went to Hollywood. I've been coaching there for the last couple of years, but I'm no longer there and I want to coach." And so we met and, I said, "Hey, we already have an OC, but, you want to be our QB coach." And then he brought like three of his friends four of his friends, and they all joined at the same time. One joined like the year after, two joined the year after, the third year. I was able to kind of find coaches that way as well. So posting and then just word of mouth. And then, Shaw's recruiting his friends from Hollywood. And as I mentioned, 5 of them came up to Washington with me. And 3 are still coaching with me after.
Yeah, 12 years, 13 years almost, Coach. That's amazing. So are those 5 guys, Shaw's 4 friends, are Shaw's and those 4 guys the ones that went with you to Lincoln?
Yeah, they all went to Hollywood High School. They were like, they all played on the football team at Hollywood, which was our rival.
Yeah.
And they all moved up with me, and one's our OC now, and one's our strength coach and running backs coach, special teams coordinator, and then one's our corners coach.
Wow. Coach, talk about how do you think you have garnered that kind of faithfulness from your assistants? What specific things do you do to garner that kind of, really love, friendship?
Yeah, well, they've told me, they said that when they joined our staff, they saw that it was different. And it wasn't just about football, and they said that, if they had a coach like me or a program like this, they would have turned out way different. They're great guys and stuff, but they just, they said they could have probably accomplished more. They would have made better choices, etc. And they said they wanted to keep doing it. That was a big reason they moved up with me and wanted to continue what we were doing there at Lincoln, and they're still doing it.
That's so awesome. I think that when you have an undercurrent of something larger than football, you're going to attract people that have that same belief system, and that is far more sustainable to work towards than a fleeting victory or a fleeting good season. It's like those are the kind of guys that you're going to have around year in and year out because they believe in the work that they do every single day. That's awesome.
I agree. Like what always, brings me joy is a lot of the young assistants during our exit interview or just, when we're talking, they'll tell me like, "Hey, our core covenants, I follow that now and it's made me a better man," and those are the things like, it's not just the players, the coaches are affected. Yeah, that brings me a lot of joy.
That's so cool. One of the things that we're going to institute this summer is I saw at Spring Ball in summer is I saw Bixby do it in Oklahoma. They do like kind of like a leaderboard for core values each week. And so like they rank their players somehow off of their, say their core values, resilience, and they rank them 1 to 100. And I'm like, how the heck did they do that? But anyways, I thought, it's hard as a coach, a head coach. We have so many things going on, but I immediately knew that one of my assistants would take this on wholeheartedly because he loves our core values and he would invest so much time and energy into this strand. Yeah. And like, how cool was that? I know you probably have the same guys on your staff that will do anything because of the value system that you're trying to instill. And those are like the real differences you can make in a program and in a kid's life, I think.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's great.
That's awesome. Coach, let's transition now to Lincoln. You ended a successful tenure at Bernstein. Please walk us through, if you don't mind, the personal reasons that motivated you to go there, so our listeners know that you just weren't looking for a bigger, better thing.
Yeah. I started missing, the Pacific Northwest. I had been I went to college in 2001 to Chicago. And then from there, I moved to San Diego to go to grad school. And then from there, I started teaching in LA. So I had been gone, for about 15 years. And I started missing home. And then the biggest reason is I felt like be closer to my mom at some point as she was getting older. She would come down to LA and stuff like that. But it's like, I started wondering how long can she keep traveling like that, and eventually she's gonna, like today, she had her hip replacement and I needed to be there. And so it's for these things, like, reasons I decided to move up. And yeah, that was the reason why I started looking around. And the Christmas break of 2014, going into 2015, my high school coach, Jim Shapiro, who knew I was looking around, the Seattle area for teaching and coaching job, emailed me an article of John Kitna leaving Lincoln High School in Tacoma, which was his alma mater. He took it over after he retired from the NFL for 3 years, like turned that program around, put a bunch of money into it, and then he was going to go take a Texas job. And so I read the article, kind of did some research about Lincoln, and then, I figured, hey, it's a pretty good program now. They put some money into the program. It's still inner city, which I still want to do and be in. So that night I emailed the principal and sent him my resume. And then a few weeks later, did a Skype interview and got the job around February, I want to say, and then moved up in April.
Wow, that's great, Coach. And let's really dive deep into the takeover process. So, I think it's really important to cite that although you are not turning around a program's record, you are turning around a culture, not for better or worse per se, but just different.
Yeah, just different.
And I think that any coach going in, whether you're going into a successful program or one that hasn't been successful, there are going to be specific things that you need to do to make that transition your own and to bring those program into your mold. And please tell us, how was that process at Lincoln and how did it differ from the process at Bernstein?
Yeah. So I think number one, I realized afterwards, I didn't have all the ducks in a row. Like I had a system, but it wasn't good enough. And going to Lincoln and kind of wavering, between different things because I didn't have a clear vision, clear foundation, clear, core covenants, all these things that I worked on after that hard year, that first year at Lincoln. So I didn't have those. So that first year was really challenging because I got a lot of pushback and it's natural, right? As we talked about, kids are hurt because their coach that they loved and turned things around for them abandoned them, or felt abandoned by him. Yeah. They were hurt, so they were going to take it out on anyone that came in, And number two, like I said, anything I did different than Coach Kitna or maybe something that they didn't like, I would get pushback, oh, well, we didn't do it this way, or why are we doing this? It wasn't like this before, And so that was hard, And again, if I had more of a vision of what I wanted to do, I would be like, well, too bad, But that year, because I didn't, I kind of wavered. Maybe they're right. Oh yeah, maybe we should change it, And so that was a really important lesson for me, even though, it wasn't a pleasant one, and and we went 11-1, lost in the first round. We probably should have won, but I just didn't do a good enough job of, reeling the seniors in, doing a better job of getting them to buy into, what we wanted to do. And then obviously, like I said, I didn't have a great system or vision or things that we were going to be, live and die by, and not waver on. Yeah. And after that first year, and then parents, again, I'm not Coach Kitna and they were expecting Coach Kitna, and then, fans and even some of the couple of coaches that we kept from the staff, it was always, well, we shouldn't do it this way, or we never did it this way, and so it was a very, very hard season for me. And as I mentioned to you, I thought about leaving and kind of taking the easy way out. And going to join my high school coach as his, defensive coordinator and a teacher, where I graduated from. Mentor sat me down and said, "Hey, if you got your ducks in a row, like where would you make bigger impact?" And that was easy. And I said, Lincoln. And so I'm going to get my duck in a row. I'm going to work on all these things that I felt like I was short on. And that's when I came up with like our vision statement for our program, our core covenants, our core values. And I said, this is what we're going to be about. And this is, who we are. And we're not going to waver. It's still our core covenants and vision statement. It's still the same. And every year we add something new, like this year it's man versus himself. We add things like that, but it's still the vision statement, core covenants, core values. And that's really helped me. And I always say like, it's your North Star, when you're lost, when things are hard, you know why you're doing it. And so you don't waver.
Oh, that's awesome. I think it's really important for us coaches, and I kind of am going to get on a soapbox here, but we need to have something written down. Every coach that I've interviewed in my last 5 have had a specific vision for what they wanted their program to be. In 2020, I had a vision, I had core values, I had a mission statement, but it was outdated and I didn't really believe it. And my best friend and I sat in the garage and he walked me through every single thing about what I wanted from the program at Troy. And we came up with Rise and Rise Again until Lambs Become Lions, because that was my purpose. That's what I wanted to see being achieved at Troy. And that conviction was so strong in me that it bled out, and the players and the coaches could see, oh man, this is what it's really about. And if that message is being poured out from the core of who you are, people cannot help but be, I think, challenged and convicted and inspired to follow it. Coach, what was your specific vision that you wrote down when you went through that hard time? And sometimes it takes that hard time for us to do that. What did you write down?
Yeah, no, that's great. So the first thing I came up with is our vision statement, and that's to build champions on and off the field and help them become productive citizens while relentlessly pursuing championships. And
Yeah.
And really that was our college coach. He said just using football as a vehicle to help, build better future husbands and fathers and workers. And so I kind of took that idea and, hey, we're going to build champions on and off the field, and help them because when they leave Lincoln, I want them to be productive citizens and be a positive impact. But at the same time, we're going to coach good football. We're going to work our butts off, and we're going to relentlessly pursue championships. So that's the vision statement that I came up with. And then, I believe in core covenants. It's like, hey, this is an agreement that we're going to make to each other when we join this team. And, the 4 are love, ownership, accountability, and discipline. And those are the 4 things, in my opinion, if we can do as men, we would have a successful team, but also a successful family, a successful business. And it's all, I think you're a believer, right, Coach? It all stems from obviously first love, love. And then if you love, then you can, take ownership. You can hold people accountable. You can, be disciplined and discipline others, etc. So those are the things I came up with after that year, knowing that, hey, I need a strong foundation. And you hit it on the head coach. It has to be something you truly believe in as the head coach.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because at Bernstein, I kind of would take things that I hear and then, oh, that sounds good, but it wasn't mine,
Yeah.
Oh, Nick Saban said it. Oh, so now this is ours. Like, but it wasn't mine. It has to be yours because you're the driving force of your culture, right? As the head coach. And so if you don't truly believe in it and it's not coming from you, then it's going to fizzle out. And so you're so right. You have to believe in it. And so that's why I think it's important that coaches do what we did and really sit down, for maybe months and really think about like, hey, what is our program about? Everything we do is going to be towards that.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny as you spend that time in thought and you really ponder what you believe. Now you take these weird questions that kids are going to have. Coach, why do we have to wear this? Coach, why do we have to do this? Coach, why do we have to do this? Why can't we do this? And it's always easy for me to be like, sometimes it's just like, hey guys, that's what I prefer. Get over it. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to live with that in life. And other times it's like, guys, it doesn't fit into our system and our agreement of how we said we're going to behave. That's why we're doing this. And I think that that was awesome that you were able to now kind of have your anchor, your North Star to measure, and kids can see you measure up what their recommendations were, and parents can see you measure it up and just be like, nope, it does not fit with what we're trying to do. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. An impactful visit I had was, I think, after my second season. I wasn't still comfortable. I was still working through things. Chris Peterson, who was at UW, he came to recruit at our school. I asked him how long it took him, after he took over after Sarkeesian,
Yeah.
like, hey, for the program to become yours. And he said
Yeah.
18 to 24 months. And I was like, okay, all right, I think we're on the right track, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're getting there. But hey, he said 18 to 24 months. And so, that kind of gave me an encouragement. And I said, we just got to keep going. If it's going to take someone like Chris Peterson, a couple years, then, it's going to take us some time too. And yeah, I think like at maybe year 3, maybe year 4, I felt like, okay, this is our program.
I think it's really amazing to reflect upon what could have been. So let's say you did quit, and let's say you did go work for Coach Shapiro. I've heard amazing things, and you're probably an amazing assistant for him, and you're having, a great time. But now maybe the community around Lincoln doesn't have this amazing program that you're trying to create. And I think as coaches, I think there's something that drove you, that love of people, that love of community, that challenged you to say, I'm not going to take the easy way out. And so you were practicing those core values prior to actually, I guess, materializing them. And I think as listeners, when we are taking over a program, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes you're going to endure some of the most painful, embarrassing, heartbreaking attacks, conversations, just people letting you down that you will ever encounter. And you have to believe in your purpose as a person and the vision that you're trying to achieve. And that is like so awesome that you're able to do that, Coach.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's all God, and he had a purpose for me here. And it's the mentors that I was able to talk to, that spoke truth to me, and basically challenged me, and said, hey, where are you going to be more useful? And that was a no-brainer. That's why we need mentors, right? That's why we need people to speak truth to us. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And my time at Lincoln has been amazing. And, just the relationships that we built, coaches and players, and what we've been able to accomplish, Yeah, it's really weird to think, I could have left after year 1.
Yeah. Yep. And no one would have blamed you. Ever been like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, he left, and you would have been a blurb in Lincoln's history. But lo and behold, Coach, I love it. So, Coach, we're nearing the end of our time, but
Yep.
You have so much wisdom to impart upon the coaching community. What advice would you give a coach that's taking over a program that may be struggling or that may be excited, whatever it is? What do you feel like you would want them to know going into taking over a program?
Okay. So a few things, and we've talked about most of them, but yeah, make sure you have the support of, the principal, athletic director, and just people above you, because you're going to need it, and you can only do so much as the head coach. And so again, go into interviews with interview questions for yourself as well, in terms of what you want. And if you feel like you're going to get that kind of support, and that's number 1. Number 2, something we just talked about for 5-10 minutes, is have a vision, core values, have things that you truly believe in, that you want to implement, because again, that's going to be your North Star. And when you face difficult times or difficult decisions, you can say, I want to play this kid, but I have to sit him because my core value, my vision statement says, hey, we're trying to build productive citizens. So I can't just let him get away with whatever he did and play him because he's a good player, right? So those tough decisions, if you have something that you believe in, it'll be easier to make those tough decisions. And then number 3, go visit coaches every season. Every off season, I go visit schools, I go visit coaches, and I always say best coaches are best thieves. So steal away and make it your own. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so many great ideas and coaches doing great things. So go take from them and then make it your own. And that's helped our program so much. So those are the three, I would say, big advice I would give to a new aspiring head coach.
Awesome, Coach. Again, our time has been so great. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. Thank you once again, Coach, and I wish you the best this season.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate you.
Welcome.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Turnaround Series presented by CoachTube. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their insight on what it takes to rebuild a program and create a winning culture. Remember, if you're working to turn things around, having proven strategies and the right resources is a game changer. That's where CoachTube comes in. It's a technology platform designed to connect you with on-demand courses from top coaches, state associations, and charitable organizations. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading your team to success. And if you're a coach with knowledge to share, CoachTube makes it easy to create and distribute your own training content. Teach what you know, help other coaches, and build your brand. Visit CoachTube.com to explore courses or reach out to me, Keith, at CoachTube if you're ready to share your expertise. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and join us next time for more insights from the best in the game.